But I'd say that first of all, I will introduce myself and I will explain very briefly how the conference is going to work so that everyone has an idea on how to participate. This is going to be really more of a conversation with the speakers and also with all the participants. So if you have any questions, I will say that again during the conference. Please feel free to use the chat to write them down. And I'd say in the first part of this morning, we'll leave the speakers have their presentations with no haste. And then after the presentations, we will have a few minutes to just exchange questions. I will go through the chat and I will ask the questions for you to the speakers. First of all, my name is Francesca Mura. I coordinate the International Research Office at the University of Padua. As you know, the University of Padua is one of the Arqus partners. The conference today is dedicated to RMAs, research managers and administrators, their professional profile, state of the art and future perspectives. It will be my pleasure to host the first session of the event approximately from 9 till 10 a.m. And then from 10 till 11, the second session will take place and will be hosted by my colleague, Laura Miles from the University of Bergen. So the first session is really dedicated to setting the scene about this topic, very interesting and very relevant to most of us. That is the professional profile of research managers and administrators. Why did we choose to invest in this topic? As you know, the Arqus European Alliance has many actions related to, among others, research support and early stage researchers development. Within our action line, the action line dedicated to research support and early stage researchers development, we decided to invest especially in research environment and research support, discussing best practices, the possible exchange of best practices in research support. So how can RMAs, research managers and administrators, normally non-academic staff, contribute to create the best research environment for researchers? That's the topic of our conversation today. So I think I can sort of start introducing our speakers. In the first session, we will have 3 keynote speakers that we are very happy to welcome. They are very well renowned and experienced professionals in this field in research support. One of them is Simon Kerridge, and then we'll have Ian Anderson, and then Valentina Romano. In the second session of the conference, we will be discussing from a more operational point of view how research support is actually organized within the Arqus partner universities. So different representatives of each university will have time to present how their research support services are set. So I'd say I start by introducing our first speaker today, Simon Carriage. He is Director of Research Policy and Support at the University of Kent. He is also an EARMA board member, EARMA being the European Association of Research Managers and Administrators. EARMA is a reference point for the community of RMAs at the international level. It offers many opportunities for exchanging, training, best practices, ideas, and resources that are very useful for RMAs today. So Simon Kerridge will really help us setting the scene in our conversation, discussing what is a definition of RMA, what could be intended when we say research manager and administrators. What are actually the competences, the skills, and also the opportunities that lie behind this complex professional profile? So with no further ado, Simon, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much, Francesca. Hopefully my screen sharing is now working, and if you can give me a nod or something, that will show that you can see it. Fantastic. Great. Okay, yes, so 10 minutes to cover all of that. I'll do my best. Excellent. Okay, obligatory photograph of my dogs, because of course they are the love of my life, and any research manager administrator, of course. The first question I think is, what is a research manager and administrator? And I think I can say that we are not a profession recognized as such in the same way as lawyers and doctors are, for example, but we are perhaps recognized as a group of people who do a similar job. So we have this community of practice, if you like. You don't want to hear too much about me. What you want to hear about is research managers, administrators. There are a number of definitions, none of which are quite the same. I like this one best from Julie Steckhouse from back from 2008, which basically defines us in terms of not what we are, but what we do. So it's supporting research, really, as Francesca described in her excellent introduction. I think the way that this one falls down is it's very much university focused, and for me, research managers, administrators support the whole life cycle, whether it might be. So people working also in research institutes, in research funders, but also in policymakers and in government. So anyone who is involved in making that research process work from the research side or the funding side or the policy side. As you can see here, there's no agreed term. We've gone with RMA in Europe. In the US, they focus very much on research administrator, because administrator is something more senior to manager in the US. Africa is perhaps even better, research and innovation manager, so very much drawing in that industrial focused impact side of things, research facilitator, and so on. There are probably 1,000 different job titles. So my favorite acronym is RAP, with 3 A's, Research Administration as a Profession. It was funded by the US, which is why there's no M in there for manager. The first survey was run in 2016, and we had, as you can see, 2,500 responses, over 800 from Europe. We ran a follow-on survey in 2019, 4,500 respondents from around the world, and 1,500 from Europe. So you can see there's quite a large data set. If you want to look at the data, the 2016 data is all available. You can download it, use SPSS or Excel or whatever you want. The 2019 data is still being processed due to some small global pandemic. I didn't get on quite as quickly as that as I'd hoped, but I am presenting some of the data here, and some of it is available. So this pie chart just shows where do people work. So the blue, the red, and the green are universities. Orange is a research institute, and then those lots of different colors are things like hospitals, charities, government departments, colleges, and so on. So people work across that broad spectrum. Everything is available on the website, of course. In terms of where people work within an institution, and here we're mainly looking at universities, and you can see about 2/3 work in a central research office. The red chunk there is those who are working in a non-central research office. Some larger institutions have devolved research offices, so they might have a separate research office in the medical school, for example. And you can see the green chunk there is within an academic department, so they're very much research managers, administrators, probably working at a departmental level or even on specific research projects. And then, of course, there's always the weird and wonderful others. What is it that we need in terms of skills? Well, the column on the right-hand side, left-hand side, goodness me, I'm not going to drive today. The column on the left-hand side are the sort of the technical skills, the RMA specific skills, if you like. So things like finding funding opportunities or preparing projects, doing costing and pricing. I'm not going to read through them all. These were the ones used in the first RAP survey, which were very much taken from the professional development survey developed in the UK by EARMA, the UK association. That's also used by EARMA, and I think Jan might be mentioning that in his talk. Hopefully you can see things down there which you do or your colleagues who are research managers and administrators do. On the right-hand side, you then have those softer skills, if you like, the more generic skills, the transferable skills, so communication, teamwork, cultural awareness, taking responsibility, mentoring and coaching, those sorts of things, which are a lot more sort of general, and as I say, required by research managers and administrators as well. This is probably my preferred slide, my favorite slide from the RAP1 survey. On the left-hand side, you see the hard skills. On the right-hand side, you see the soft skills. Each diagram has 3 columns. The first column is for leaders in RMA, then managers in the middle level, and then the more operational staff at the coalface. So looking at the hard skills, you can see that there is a little bit of orange increasing and the green is increasing. So the orange is these hard skills are very important for my role, and the green is yes, they are important. You can see a little slithers of yellow there. The yellows are these hard skills are extremely important. On the other hand, if you look at the soft skills, you'll see a whole host of yellow there. So the soft skills like communication and collaboration are extremely important for research managers at all levels and become more important as you move up the scale. And you can see that it's practically all yellow and orange. So top tip takeaway from this is, although the technical skills are important, it's those softer skills that you perhaps want to focus on in terms of advancement. Certification, I mentioned the professional development framework, and EARMA has a certificate program, the certificate in research management. This is just a breakdown by region, and you can see the 999 there because the data is not yet complete. Some people who didn't know where they worked. So you can see that in the USA, almost 40% of research managers and administrators have a certification, in their case, certificate in research administration, whereas if you look at Europe, it's about 10%. And that's because it's relatively new, so it's only been an option for the past few years. But you know, there is certification available, and as you can see, it's potentially growing. If we look to the US, it's been somewhere that's had research management and administration for longer. I mentioned associations. I mentioned ARMA a few times, my home association. You can see the other European national associations listed here, the ones that are members of INORMS. INORMS is the International Network of Research Management Societies, so it's the association of associations. And of course I put EARMA, which is the European one. So it's quite common for people to be members of their national association, for example, the Danish Association, and also the European Association, particularly if they're involved in European funding. What I would say is, if your country doesn't have an association, maybe it does, maybe it has a loose network or an email group or something, please do find out about that. And again, I think Valentina might be talking about that from the Italian perspective. If your association does have, if your country does have an association, I would definitely recommend at least looking at what they have to offer. If you feel that research management is your profession, then your professional association is the way to go. It will help in networking. You can offer to do volunteering, which will help with your networking. And in another talk at another time, I'll perhaps talk about the extraordinarily huge importance of networking with your European colleagues and international colleagues in order to build that expertise. You can't know everything, but you can know people who know everything. So that would be my top tip. I think I'm probably about out of time, so that's it. Questions later. One thing I should say is I can only stay for the first hour, I'm afraid. So if you have any burning questions for me, make them in the first hour or send me an email. And thank you very much, Francesca. I guess I will shut up now.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you for reminding that you will not be here for the second session, unfortunately, but we'll try to make the best of it. We have some questions for you later for sure. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I would like to welcome those of you who just joined in a little bit late. As I said at the beginning, the event is organized in 2 sessions. The first session will set the scene concerning the RMA professional profile. So we'll have an idea about definitions that Simon has provided. We will also go a little bit more in depth on topics concerning training, and we'll talk about a specific experience that was undertaken at the national level, particularly in Italy. If you have questions, I would ask you to write them down on the chat, and I will go through them at the end of the presentations. So now I would like to leave the floor to Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson It's a pleasure to have you here. He's a senior executive advisor at the University of Southern Denmark. He has a long-standing professional experience in research management and administration, and he will talk about the importance and impact of training in such complex, challenging, ever-changing, but very exciting profession. Thank you, Ian. I think your mic is muted.
Thank you very much, Francesca, and thank you very much for Arqus to invite us to give a presentation at your workshop. What I'm going to talk about is a little bit about the background for why we have this need for a professional environment for research support. Let's see if I can get this to work. I put in a slide on myself, and I think that the slides will be shared later on, so you can actually dive a little bit into that. But I work with the University of Southern Denmark, but have been an active member of the Society of Research Managers and Administrators for many, many years, and have been an active member in the networks nationally and internationally for research managers and administrators, and being part in starting several of them already, among them the Best Prac project, also the Danish Association for Research Managers and Administrators. The background for the growth in research management and the development of research management societies actually comes from research. I think it's a really important thought to have with you when you are talking about why do you need more staff in the research support office. It does not come from a wish to make more bureaucrats or more bureaucracy. It's coming from challenges in research itself. So what we have seen started in the UK or in the US back in the 1950s, where the US associations started up, was actually research funding schemes where researchers should apply for funding. And this only became really, really significant in Europe up till the beginning of 2000, and then onwards from there, and has changed the research landscape totally. From more and more complex funding schemes, demand for collaborative research projects, and on that side also demands from society for accountability, more focus on ethics and taking responsibility for societal problems or global challenges, whatever they are called. And a new baby has been born over the last 5-6 years, the Open Science project, that will demand new challenges for researchers to navigate in not only in the funding landscape but actually in research itself. And that means that our role is actually to facilitate this process for researchers, to enable more research for the money, so to speak. So we have a bottom line here that's actually totally black and not red. At the same time, we see an increasing growth. We see a growth in funding for research overall in the world, and that means actually that we see more researchers. We see a higher competition for the best researchers. We see a higher degree of mobility and also money in the research environment that demands some kind of support to be facilitated and spent for research. So as I said, it comes actually from the changes in research itself. The training, that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about, has had a number of different pathways, and I think that the most well-known is what Simon also mentioned, the EARMA Professional Development Framework, which are now shared with EARMA for a certificate program that's called CRM. And I also want to mention here the best prac experiences, because the two approaches are a little bit different. and the best practice is actually one of the most successful cost actions in history. It ran from 2014 to 2019, and the network is actually still going strong. I think it's more than 850 members still active in the best practice community, and they will have a joint EARMA best practice meeting in the mid of June already, so look out for that also. And then I just want to mention a small project called Formation, because it's a glimpse into the future, but we will see in the formation of the profession. So the best practice approach is to look at the project life cycle. You can see the project life cycle comes from a process going where you are preparing a proposal, you are developing a proposal, then you turn into some grant preparation, and then at some stage you have a project that you'll be running. And in order to not to make it too complicated, the PDF is looking at what role do you have. Are you a manager, or are you a beginner in the profession, or are you a leader in the profession? But the best practice is looking at it in a way where you're looking at where are your role in the organization. So depending on where you role in the organization, you support different types of tasks in the process, and you see projects from different types of angles. And they made Best Practice made a big survey in the beginning of the Best Practice project, defining these three types of research administrators. And you can actually here you can find the wiki where you can see in more detail what is the philosophy behind it. But basically, and I think that it aligns very much with the PDF, that for each process in the project lifecycle, you define a number of tasks, steps that has to be taken care of in the process, and depending on which type of research manager you are, whether you are in the central level or you are decentral, or you are specialized or not specialized, you will have a number of skills, competencies, and behaviors linked to these tasks. And on the Best Practice Wiki, you can actually see how these are defined for each of these steps here, and each of the and all the tasks and skills needed to fulfill those tasks. And because it's not time to go into details here, I'll just mention it, and I will really recommend you to go into it, because it is a really, really wonderful way to analyze your own organization and match it up with what do we already have in place in our office, and what do we need based on the types of organization we are and where we are in the organization. So this can work whether you are actually in a department or whether you are in a central level research support office. Okay, so this is a little bit about the best practice approach to it. The best practice meeting in June.
Excuse me, Ian, sorry to intrude. Could you keep the mic a little bit closer?
Yes, I can.
Sorry.
Is that better? It's a really, really bad mic. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Sorry,
okay.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Right. But I think that we should dive a little bit more into it. I think the best job done on analyzing what is actually the tasks and skills for what is a professional research manager, it is the ARMA professional development framework. And it's actually divided into three other types of levels. So instead of looking at where you are in the organization, it looks at the operational level, the management level, and the leadership level. And for each of these levels, you identify a number of activities, and again linked up to the same project lifecycle thinking as mentioned before. And then for each of these levels, define the tasks for each level, or either it's operational, managing, or leading. So, and underneath here, if you look at just this one step here, the operational step on the identifying funding sources and customers, there are a lot of skills and competencies also linked to that. This approach will help you to make a professional development scheme for your staff, and it identifies all the different steps needed to fulfill that task here. Or actually, it's not true. It's not a task. It's actually a number of tasks for this here. Okay, so this has then been moved into a certificate program, both for ARMA and EARMA. They have a certificate program, and the certificate is not run by an institution. It is run by a virtual institution called HTHE, which can award an accredited certificate. So, for example, the EARMA certificate in research management, which is the most, it's the one that's actually up and running. It's around 20 to 22 ECTS credits, so it can be transferred, for example, into either maybe a master degree in some field or some further education, maybe even substitute parts of a PhD program if you want to pursue a further career. And I think that is the value of a certificate system, is that it's linked up to ECTS credits. And it's also then transferable within your own institution to those who are focused on that. If we are looking at the EARMA accreditation, we have also a certificate in research administration, but it's actually just a short one-day course, so it's not accredited in ECTS credits. And we also have a certificate in leadership, research leadership. We run an EARMA leadership event activity, and that is the same. It's a 2-day training course. Actually, it's more like a workshop where people get a certificate, but it's actually not accredited at this stage. And this is simply because the amount of resources to put into this is extremely high. So the cost for running an accreditation program is extremely high. And it's very costly. So, but we have now a successful certificate program running together with ARMA, and I think ARMA you're up to around maybe 200 certificates, and EARMA is around, I think it's around 70 to 80 certificate at the moment. I think this is the way it goes, that we need these certificates in order to be clear to our management what are we actually doing, and also for our own job security and job descriptions. Because the world is becoming more complex, and what we will end up is having a demand for more specialized and qualified staff. And that's also why the formation project is so successful. I have not really seen the exact figures because it's just on the edge of starting up, but there was a huge interest in starting up. And this is actually a postgraduate, a pre-graduate program running for normal students in normal universities, so to speak. And there's a huge interest with training coming from higher education institutions. So they will actually be the first generation of the profession with a university degree as research managers and administrators. So this is also very interesting to see what would be their career path and what would be the success of this, and will there be maybe even a stronger program in the future. Yes, so that was actually what I was going to say. I hope that I was in time.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much for all the information and resources you were able to share. I would like to remind you all that the presentations will be available for download after the conference. And the conference is also being recorded, so you can access it. And I think it will be very interesting to do, because actually the resources and information and links that Ian has provided and also Simon are are worth looking into. Now, we are running a little bit on a tight schedule, so I'll leave the floor to Valentina Romano. Valentina Romano is a colleague. She's head of the Collaborative Projects Unit at the Polytechnic University of Turin. Valentina will talk about, and she's also a member of the EARMA Professional Development and Recognition Committee. Valentina will talk about her experience in coordinating a working group at national level, which really endorsed a very interesting challenge, that is the creation and development and discussion of a professional framework proposal for RMAs at the Italian level. It's very interesting to hear this case study, which I think will be very inspirational for many other universities, I believe. Valentina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca, for inviting me, and good morning to everyone. Based on Simon and Jan's presentation, I will give you information about a concrete experience of an Italian group of RMA who tried to set up a professional development framework on the basis of what has been done in Europe and outside Europe, and based on what Jan and Simon just told you. So first of all, why this idea? 2 years ago, with some colleagues, we were wondering whether RMA is perceived as a profession in Italy and whether we have a professional recognition. And we need to increase awareness and stimulate the potential of the profession in Italy at first. So what we did, we set up a working group of RMA with 12 universities, and our aim was to create a professional development framework for RMA in Italy. What we did, first of all, we set up a definition. The definition was taken by RAP and adapted to the Italian context. We also decided to include 3 different levels of profession. First phase was to map the existing professional development framework worldwide so that we could compare the association of RMA plus best practice and to create a benchmarking table. This benchmarking table was created by identifying name, country, scope, professional development framework, a professional level, and training and accreditation, and the websites. So this table was very useful to understand whether professional development framework have been developed by some RMA association and whether it could be useful for the Italian context. What we realized that many associations have 3 professional levels, and we found out that there are 4 professional development framework worldwide, plus 1 European professional framework that was the best practice one. We have different level of accreditation and recognition in each country, and it was too difficult to classify them because every country has its own characteristics. The association organized training courses for their members, and they are open to RMA in different institutions, and they are based mainly on national funding opportunities. What is very interesting that in some cases, trainers are selected through calls. Then we decided to do a survey among Italian RMAs in order to understand activities, training experience, and training needs of Italian RMA. And we received 259 responses. So what did we find out? That RMA in Italy has up to 15 years experience. They focus mainly on pre and post award, and the other activities are not evenly distributed. Sorry, something went wrong with my presentation. We have 3 professional levels managers, administrators, and leaders. So they identify themselves within these three professional levels that are similar to the ARMA ones. Training experience are not really popular in Italy, in the sense that 85% attended training courses, but only 30% is involved in the activities. 90% receive a certificate, but they do not receive formal recognition, and they do not have any professional accreditation. So there is a need to stimulate Italian RMA to get a recognition. About training needs, Simon already said, and also Jan, something about the importance of hard and above all soft skills. And some hard and soft skills these are only some hard and soft skills that are interesting for Italian RMA. Finally, we decided to create a professional development framework. We decided to classify them into macro areas. Sorry. Something went wrong with my presentation. So macro areas, tasks, skills, and competencies. And we create our professional development framework table. So this is a part of our table. We identify 6 macro areas, and each macro areas has different tasks, and their soft skills and hard skills, technical skills and soft skills. Each macro area is divided into tasks for professional level, leader, manager, and administrator. Now the Italian working group is permanent and it has new members. We created a LinkedIn group, and as we are here within the framework of the Arqus Alliance, that is the European University Alliance, I like to highlight that within the European Alliance, networking of RMA is often foreseen, and some of our members are also member of the European Alliance, and here you can find a list. And finally, last slide. These are the main contacts and the working group members. We have also the new members of this working group. And we hope to continue working on the subject in the future. We are sure we will continue working in the future with this. Thank you. And sorry, my presentation, something went wrong.
No problem. We could follow you.
I hope you understood everything. And I will give you the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Valentina, very much for sharing this experience with us. And I see there are quite a lot of people that actually joined in the middle of our conversation, of our event. So I would like to tell you again, if you have any questions, please feel free to share them through the chat. I'm Francesca Mura. I'm responsible for the International Research Office at the University of Padua. I will collect your questions and we'll share them with the speakers. In the meanwhile, while we're waiting for questions from the audience, I would take the advantage of we have a few minutes still because we are planning to have a short break at about 9:50. So we still have 10 minutes for questions. After a 10-minute break, the session 2 will start from 10 to 11 a.m. If I may, I would like to ask Simon a question concerning your presentation in particular. I noticed that in terms of certifications, the US has a lot to offer, whereas in Europe, the number of RMAs that do have a certification is much lower. If I don't have a certification, I understand that networking could probably help enhance my career. How so? What are your suggestions? Where do I start from if I want to enhance my career with resources that I have here?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, no, thanks for that. Yes, the certification program in the US is a lot older, which is why the more people have it, and there are, I don't think, 2,000 people with a certificate in research administration. But yes, you're right. The top most important thing that you can do for your career is to volunteer for things. So if you are attending a conference, for example, then perhaps volunteer to go on a registration desk, and then you get to meet everybody who comes to the conference. Or if you're at a talk and you like what someone is saying, then volunteer yourself to go up and speak to them afterwards. Literally have that conversation and just say, I really enjoyed your talk. Would you mind exchanging business cards, or whatever the thing is that young people do these days with something electronic. And sort of keep those conversations going. In effect, it's the same thing that we help researchers do when they're building networks. It's the advertise yourself as, here's what my particular interests are. Maybe you don't have a huge amount of expertise, you think, because you're quite young or new to the profession, but actually what you have is experience of your institution and your situation, and everyone else has a similar interest or situation. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you're working in Italy, then you will know all about Italian funding sources and so on. If you meet someone from Spain, then they won't know about Italian funding sources. You won't know about Spanish funding sources, but starting out having those conversations, and then maybe next month or 5 years down the line, there'll be a joint call between the Italian and Spanish funding agencies, and you will be one of the best placed people in your country to be able to do that and support your researchers. So any sort of volunteering that you can do, write a very short article for one of the newsletters of the associations, or start an email special interest group, or do what Valentina's done, and actually say, well, do you know what, we don't have much in Italy at the moment, let's just do it. Now, that was a whole load of work, and will continue, I'm very glad to hear, but you don't have to do that. Just get involved, volunteer your time. We had the EARMA conference a couple of weeks ago now, and one of the most appreciated talks was from Denise Clark from the University of Maryland, and what she was asked exactly the same question, and she'd already shown it on a slide. It was volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. So sorry for the long answer.
Thank you, Simon. I have a question from Valentina. Actually, I wanted to ask a similar one. Simon showed how many different skills RMAs need to have, both hard and soft. Doesn't it make it difficult to develop focused trainings and issue certificates or accreditations? And that's actually, I add a little bit, another side to this question. I was wondering, what would your recommendations be when designing or trying to develop a training path for RMAs? As an institution, we do face this problem of actually making sure that our RMAs are trained properly. What are your recommendations trying to combine hard and soft skills, I imagine? I don't know if Simon may wish to answer, or Ian as well. Ian.
When I was becoming chair of EARMA in 2009, I discussed with my faculty director at that time what should be the perspective. And he said, if you want to do professional development, do it in a certificate scheme, because that is the only thing that will safeguard you as you go along. So I think it's buy-in from, not from necessarily from the community of our peers. I mean, we just look at our own expertise. I mean, I know what Simon can do. I know what Valentina can do, more or less. But for a university director or head of office, they maybe not be aware what is actually the difference of a newcomer and one who is experienced, and what do they actually know, and what is the difference between this person with these types of competencies and these types of competencies. So For example, as Simon has underlined, the link between the soft skills and the hard skills will actually be much more visible. That you do not only get a person who knows how to do a good application, but you also know a person who can actually act in a scientific complex environment. So he said to me, if you want to do something in professional development, go for certification. And I think that history has proved that is truth. Also, a comment on the U.S. I mean, it's a different situation in the U.S. U.S. have been there for many more years in research management and administration. They have a much longer career, but their certificate program is actually outsourced to an independent association that's run it like it's actually a test that you take. Of course, you have to learn and train the material. And understand and make the 70 or 80% correct when you take out the multiple choice accreditation, and you have to do it every 5 years to be accredited. And there is a much better uptake because the heads of offices are much more aware of that the certificate actually plays a role, and that is what will come over the years in Europe as well. So I think we will see a significant growth here. Yeah.
About this aspect, the availability of certified training, I have a question from the audience. Is there a university in Europe providing an academic degree in research management? Or is the formation project an initiative to open such training? What do you think? Is there a need for this type of academic study program? Or do RMAs recruit from a sufficient subset of other academic education schemes? So the question is there already a training path at university level in Europe, you think? Or would you proceed with the formation project towards that goal?
Okay, so, Simon can complement here, but the formation project is an Erasmus program, so it will depend on whether there's enough uptake of candidates and whether it will be sustainable for those candidates in the future to actually have positions. I think it will. I mean, there was a huge, as far as I understand, it already filled the first program. So I think that there will be a professional training program. It is at the moment there are a number of universities providing master degrees in research management. As far as I have learned from experience, is that none of them have been very successful. So they run as test for a few years and then they are laid down. So there's not really something that's sustainable at the moment. I think that what is sustainable on the accredited side is the EARMA PDF or the EARMA CRM and the EARMA CRM programs, and at the moment the formation for undergraduates.
Thank you.
But Simon can maybe he knows.
Yeah, just sorry to sort of clarify what Jan said. The formation project is providing optional modules within an undergraduate degree. It's not a whole undergraduate degree just for research management, but it does open people's eyes. As far as I'm aware, there are no undergraduate degrees anywhere. They do a master's, couple of masters in a couple of German universities, particularly those which are oriented towards profession. So at Speyer, for example. The US have about 3 very well established master's degrees, which are also very expensive because they're US ones as well, but they are quite well taken up by research administrators from around the world, but particularly in the US. And it comes back to that, if you have a certificate in research administration in the US, then sometimes that's a requirement for a job, and a master's in research administration is very much a tick in the desirable box. So it's that getting to the tipping point of are there enough people with the accreditation and are there enough people who are on the appointing panels who know about the accreditation in order for it to be able to become that sort of requirement. And I don't think we're too far away. I've seen CRMs being listed as desirable in job descriptions, but not yet as mandatory.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Simon, and thank you very much, Ian. I have a question from the audience. We learned that networking of RMAs is important, but the final goal is to bring forward networking of researchers. Do you have any advice how to make the step from RMA networks to networks of researchers? And that's particular question, this one. How do you think the networks between RMAs and researchers are connected? Could they be connected? Is it worth it? Why is it important to keep a dialogue with researchers?
Well, I'll let Jan answer, probably Valentina's answer, but for me, they're two separate things. I think the network for RMAs is in order to make you better at your job because you have a broader perspective, and then because you're better at your job, you have a broader perspective, you can then support networks of researchers. I think the only time that you have the overlap of RMAs and researchers is when you have a large platform type project grant where you have researchers and research managers all working on a single project. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And there's also cases where because of this network you have access to potential partners for your project. So so if you get a small insight in where are institution strengths, and you would say, okay, you need a partner with this type of strengths, and you can say, okay, I actually learned that they were really good in Tallinn or Vilnius for this, if they are looking for a partner. And I've seen several examples on successful networking, and me being able to call Simon and say, I'm looking for a partner in the UK who can do this and that. Who should I talk to? So that's how it works. It's not a really, as Sam says, not a one-to-one link between research managers and then researchers.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Francesca, can I say something about this? Because
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm
going to ask you a question. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight the importance of connection between RMAs and researchers, because how we can grow up as a community if researchers does not know what we do. At least maybe it's only an Italian problem. I'm not sure it's only an Italian one, but I think we have to make them aware about our profession and what we do and how we can collaborate. Maybe we should not be involved in researchers' networks, but a little bit of connection and collaboration between the two networks it could be useful.
Absolutely. It's important to make the added value brought by RMAs recognizable to researchers with whom we collaborate. We don't have much time, just very briefly, I wanted to ask Valentina to comment on how the Italian experience was worth it. Can you say that if you had to recommend some similar experience and experiment to other colleagues in other countries, what would you say were the critical parts or the best parts of this experience?
Yeah, I definitely recommend this experience to other countries and to other universities. First of all, because of interesting to meet people that did not know each other before and did not cooperate at all. So it was important to create a network of people. And also it was interesting because it was kind of different working group from the others. We did not have to solve a problem of technical problem in our work, but we have to think about ourselves, our profession, who we are, and so it was great to create this common of belonging to a community. What I could recommend is when you set up a working group, you just have to set a goal. And so it's so that you have to reach this goal and you reach this goal together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We still have 5 minutes before the second session starts. I will leave you just these minutes for a short break. I would like to thank all of you, thank all the speakers and all the participants for joining in. We really do take a very, very short break, but we'll come back at 10 o'clock for the second session that is dedicated to how research support is organized within Arqus universities. One more thing, someone in the audience asked about the opportunity of having a certification for the attendance of this conference within the Arqus week. I do not have this information, but maybe you want to reach out and we'll try to verify what the conditions are. So thank you again all. We'll come back very shortly, so do not go away. If Ian and Valentina want to stay, they're very welcome to do so. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Simon, I know you have to go. Thank you again for joining in. Thank you everybody for being with us. So 4 more minutes and we're going to be back.
So thank you for that, Francesca. I'm sorry I have to leave. The second hour sounds really interesting, but I've got a meeting. Oh.
No problem. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for everything.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was really good. And see, you got 100. Good number.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it was 99.
99. Someone just left, but maybe just for a coffee. They're coming back, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you, Simon.
Bye, Simon. Thanks.
No, thanks, Valentina, and thanks for the introduction in the first place. I hope it was good. And your slides were really good. It didn't really matter. It was fine.
Absolutely. We could follow with no problem.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Sorry. Gotta go.
See you soon.
It's really annoying.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So my name is Laura Setveit-Miles, and I'm an associate professor of English literature at the University of Bergen. And I'm very happy to be moderating this second session. Thank you so much, Francesca, for organizing these 2 excellent sessions with all of these speakers from all over Europe. And in fact, we're lucky to have such a large audience here, so many people to learn about all of these different ways of administering research and for us to learn from each other about how this works in our different institutions. So the second session today is on the organization of research support at the different Arqus universities, specifically thinking about 2 questions. What organizational structures are adopted by grant offices in the Arqus Alliance? And are there any specific intramural initiatives to support individual researchers and research groups? So we anticipate that there's going to be a really informative range of ways that the different universities address these needs. And the way we'll do it today is the 7 universities will speak. Their speakers will each speak for about 5 minutes. And when you come close to the end of your 5 minutes, or when you're at the end of your 5 minutes, I'll just politely interrupt you and ask you to conclude, so we can get enough time for a bit of discussion at the end, which I think is quite important. And people in the audience, if you have any questions along the way, put them into the chat as you think of them, and I'll keep track of them and ask them of the speakers at the very end. So don't forget if you have any queries along the way. The speakers should all be co-hosts and can share their screens. So just let me know if you have any questions about that, the speakers. Why don't I start by introducing our first speaker, whom I'm very pleased to introduce, because Vibeke Irgan from the University of Bergen is the senior advisor at the Division of Research and Innovation, and actually helped support me to get a grant some years ago, me as a researcher. So I was very grateful for her support and really learned what this kind of person is at the university through Vibeke and the other people in this office at Bergen who do really fantastic work. So I will let you get started, let you start us off. Thanks, Vibeke.
Thank you, Laura. Do you all see my, wait a minute now, this is the classic. You see my screen?
You can go back to display mode. Yeah. Yes. There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you for inviting me and thank you for the nice introduction, Laura. As Laura said, I work at the University of Bergen and I'm also leading the university's support team for external funding there. And before we start on the research management part, I will just give you some key information about the University of Bergen. We are the second oldest university in Norway, and we are the third largest comprehensive university. We have about 1,400 PhDs and 260 postdocs, 280 researchers. In 2016, we established an action plan for EU funding, which was an important milestone for us because it allowed us to really focus and dive into EU funding and working to professionalize the support system towards that. Regarding our research priorities at UIB, our focus is on basic science. And our 7 faculties offer research within very wide-ranging areas. But we also have 3 strategic research areas at the university: the marine research, climate and energy transitions, and then global challenges. We also have established 6 knowledge clusters in close collaboration with local partners within public, private and academic sectors. So to the topic of the day, organization of our research support services. As I mentioned previously, we have 7 faculties, quite autonomous, with their own administrative staff and a central administrative support system of 7-8 divisions. All our faculties have dedicated research advisors, but there are some variations in size of the support staff team. Some faculties are organized in sections and some are basically one-woman or one-man teams. We have also differences in organization. Some advisors are at the faculty level, some are at the department level with much closer integration with the researchers. And also some of the smaller faculties have also outsourced certain support services, for instance, finances and HR, to the central admin level. And then we have the central administrative offices with dedicated responsibilities. These are for instance, the Division of Research and Innovation, Division of Finances, HR, etc. And what I'm going to talk in my next slide is about the central UIB research support team that it has been formed to coordinate the services from the central administration. Division of work is always an issue between the central administration and the faculties, and is debated both within the support system and outside the support system. But we have found a good division of labor here, where the local support at the faculty and department is mainly responsible for the Research Council of Norway and other national funding. And central admin support is taking care of the European funding, the center proposals, and infrastructure projects. But we always do the support in close collaboration with the local support team and offer as flexible solution as possible. And we also see that the more and more we look to the faculties for them to help us in EU funding as well now. Okay, so in my previous slide, I mentioned the central UIB research support team. And this was established as a matrix team, about 40 people, to coordinate and develop research management services across 7 central administrative divisions and 1 department. And the aim of this team is to coordinate and develop research management services related to external funding across all the administrative divisions, and then support the faculties and departments and also the individual researchers. The blue figure on the right here illustrates the team and all the divisions dedicated to this team. We have the research and innovation, the communication, the financial, HR, education, IT, university library. And then we have also a 10% scientific position in our team from the Center of the Studies of Sciences and Humanities, which has proven very valuable within RRI thematics and working towards excellence. So the support team is to provide a coordinated service, always our mantra, and should cover both research, innovation, and education projects. We develop tools for researchers and support staff, and we also provide training through our internal support staff training program, UIB UP. The team also support faculties and individual researchers in all phases of projects and offers targeted specialist competence through our expert teams. And the expert teams is the core of our activity. They are organized into teams related to specific funders and programs. Each team has a local contact point. You probably, this mimics the national contact point, the NCP organization that we have adapted from the European system. The LCP, the local contact point, is the UIB hub for information flow regarding the specific program. And these times,
if you could just wrap up with your
yes, this is my last sentence in a way. Yeah,
sorry.
So yeah, these teams are dynamic and respond to changes in requirements from the funders or specific needs or etc. And I'll show you just an example from the Marie Curie postdoc program, where we offer both proposal support, support in international recruitment and mobility, career development, online visibility, budgeting, and financial reporting. Yes, so thank you very much. And I'm sorry if I took too long now. So yeah, I guess there will be questions later on, Laura.
Thank you so much. Let me just, if you could end
yes.
Screen sharing. Yes, there we go. Our next presenter is from the University of Granada. In fact, we have 2 presenters presenting together. That is Maria Martin Bautista, who is the Director for Promotion at the International Research Projects Office at Granada, and Jose Carrillo, the Director for Management at the International Research Projects Office also. So Maria and Jose, would one of you like to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm trying, but I can't find now the button to share it.
So let me just make sure you are made up as a co-host.
I don't think so, because I don't have the button to do it.
Let's see.
Should be co-host both
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah, I don't see that she is a co-host.
But you can try now. If you can
Maria Jose, can you do it?
She is co-host.
She is a co-host?
Yes.
No.
So do you see the share screen on the bottom of your screen?
No.
In
And
the menu,
I just
something
can
in
see the
green.
chat, and
on the
I mean, the more I just can disable the video receiving. I cannot do anymore.
what about Jose, your colleague?
Yeah.
Is he here and can share his screen?
I don't know. I will try to, because it's, I am prepared for that.
Oh, may I say something in Spanish to them? José, tienes un botón verde abajo que pone compartir pantalla. Al lado de...
No, a mí no me aparece, Pedro.
¿Estáis en la versión cliente o la versión web?
No, yo estoy en la versión web.
Ah. Bueno, pues
Yo también estoy in the web. I am in the web version. Also.
If not, just send the presentation to us, and we continue with another university. Meanwhile, we receive the presentation.
We'll move on to the next university, and why don't you email me, laura.miles@uib.no.
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat. Just email me and I'll share my screen, and that will work totally fine.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's my email in the chat. Oops, I sent it directly to Francesca, sorry. I'll just send to everyone. Now everyone can email me. All right, so we will now hear from the University of Graz with Mario Möller, who is a research manager at the Research Management and Service Office. Mario, please.
Hello, I think the screen sharing worked already.
Yes, thank you very much.
Fine. So, hello and warm welcome also from Graz. UNESCO World Heritage City, not too well known outside of Austria, but the second largest city of Austria. We've been European Cultural Capital in 2003. Roughly 280,000 inhabitants, but with surroundings, it's about 350,000. And it's a very lively and vibrant student city with about 50,000 students and 4 universities, of which the University of Graz is the oldest one, but we've also got a technical university and University for Arts and Music and a medical university. At the University of Graz, we've got 435 professors or equivalents and researchers on equivalent stage and postdocs of 518 and 1,400 PhD students enrolled. So that's about the background of our university. And we have defined 5 fields of excellence for the profile of our university, that is climate change, biohealth, and the complexity of life and basic research and innovation, or called Colibri, smart regulations, and dimensions of Europeanization. If you want to find out more about any of these, just I've provided the link down there where you can go a little bit more into detail. And we have got 4 research networks defined: the human factor in digital transformation, brain and behavior, heterogeneity and cohesion, and environment and global change. So much about the background to our university. We come little bit more medias raised regarding the things that we do at our office, at the Research Management and Services Office. It's a central office, and actually most of the support at our university of the research management support is organized on a central basis, with just very few exceptions. And that's probably a thing I just go back, highlighted here 3 of the fields of excellence in yellow and 2 in blue. The 3 highlighted in yellow, they have actually an own research manager that's also linked to our research support office, so that's linked to the central office, while the 2 blue ones have a decentralized support staff member. And for the rest, actually, I think we do at our office what practically all the research management and services offices will do as the primary activities: support the researchers in the pre-award and post-award phases with the budgeting, general information about possibilities, customized informations, newsletters, legal questions, audits, all this knowledge and technology transfer is also located at our centralized research management and services team. So I think that's the activities that you all are familiar with from your universities. And so I will give you a little bit more about the details of our structure on this. So it's for the support of the research funding, so counseling for national or international research funding, or prizes and grants. We've got 2.75 full-time equivalents. I myself am responsible for the international research funding together with a colleague. Then research project quality and management, contracts and finances is 7.75 full-time equivalents. So that's the management of our internal project data acquisition and all the legal advice and data protection, and the controlling, of course, a big part. And then transfer and technology and knowledge transfer, we've got 2.5 full-time equivalents. And then we have got these project managers for more or less hands-on project support, because the research funding support that I presented, we just give feedback, we do proposal checks, but we don't do real actual writing on the projects. And that's a little bit more hands-on with the support staff for the project support. So there we have 3 altogether. So one for each of these focus areas that are highlighted in yellow. They have got an own project manager who is really doing more hands-on job in the application phase, and one at the Institute of Chemistry who is also doing a hands-on job and writing and participating in the writing. Yeah, and then for the basic office stuff, for the registry, we've got 2.75 full-time equivalents. So I hope I managed to stay in time in my 5 minutes. That was the short glimpse into our system and how we set it up. And I'm very interested to hear about the oncoming universities now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mario. Let's see, we will just end the screen sharing. And I now have the Granada PowerPoint. So can I turn back to Maria Jose and Jose? And I will now share my screen. So let's.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And just tell me when to change the slide, and I can do that. Let me just share screen. Hold on just a second. PowerPoint. Share. And there we go. Is that full screen for everyone?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, to present myself and my colleague, we are the director of the International Research Projects Office. And well, we are here to present the organization of the research support at University of Granada, mostly focused on the international dimension. Can you change to the next slide? Well, the University of Granada was founded in 1531, is one of the largest and most important universities in Spain, is the second oldest. And with over 60,000 of undergraduate and postgraduate students and almost 66,000 of staff, we offer a huge amount of degrees, master degrees, doctoral programs, which, as you can see, generate 3,300 PhD students yearly. We also have been awarded with the Human Resources Excellence in Research. This reflects the University of Granada commitment to continuously improve its human resources policies in line with the European Charter for Researchers and the Code of Conduct for the recruitment of researchers. And we are also a leading institution in research. We are among the few Spanish universities listed in the Shanghai top 500 ranking. And we stand out in some specialties, like, for instance, library and information science, position 36, food science and technology, position 37, and so forth. And we also have 8 researchers are the top highly cited researchers. That makes the University of Granada a very wide and open university to all the disciplines, which sometimes is a problem from the point of view of management, because the infrastructures for researchers, which sometimes have to be very focused on the research area, becomes more complex. In this slide, you can see that the Vice-Rectorate for Research and Knowledge Transfer is the main body of the university that manage everything regarding the research. I only have include here the bodies that and the offices that manage this research directly. There are some other offices belonging also to this Vice-Rectorate that I haven't mentioned. So we have split into national funding research projects office, the international research projects office, and the knowledge transfer office. I will go especially for the international research projects office, because I think it's the main income and also our main strategy research funding. Internationally, we bet decidedly by our participation in the course of the framework program of the European Union. And we have an office split into 2 different units, the promotion and council unit and the management unit. If you want to pass to the next slide, just to give you a general view of how are we, how we manage all the research. We have a pre-award and a post-award unit. In the promotion and consult unit, everything regarding to pre-award, we are in charge of the training and promotion of all the international calls. And also we did a very close advice in the scientific and technical preparation of the proposals. This makes that our managers normally have a researcher background, even managing European projects in the researcher previous life. And I think that this point is quite interesting because they short the distances with the researchers and understand their language, and that makes easier the pre-proposal preparation, everything regarding not very deep in the scientific part, but it helps a lot when you know how the researcher thinks. So I think that this is a positive thing. On the negative side is that it's very difficult to find people with this profile. Normally researchers want to research and don't want to manage. So to find this mixed profile is not very easy. We have divided the office into several areas in the previous one regarding the knowledge areas. Laura, if you want to back to the previous one. Yes. So we have an area manager for health, biology, and earth sciences, another one for humanities, social and legal science, and another one for all the STEM specialties. So this makes, and this staff has previous research knowledge in this area. So that makes, all the vocabulary and all the scientific sound is easier for them to talk to the researcher in the pre-award preparation. The second unit of the office is the management unit, which is directed by José Antonio Carrillo, that is going to present to you now the research strategy. Here we have a manager for individual actions like Marie Curie and ERC programs, and then another manager for all the projects, the collaborative projects in consortium, and 2 administrative supports. I don't know how many people are in the other office. I really have the curiosity to know, because I would like to know if we are less dimension or we should be over dimension, given the amount of researchers that we have in the university. Of course, we are overloaded with work. I think that all of us has, but I would like to know the numbers of some other office to just to compare and know if we really would like to have much more people.
We're coming up against the end of the time, so
yes. So just let me give the word to my colleague. It will be the last slide, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. I will present the research strategy from our office. The main areas of our university is artificial intelligence, new materials, health, nuclear physics, environment, and humanities. And I will present an example of a strategic project managed by our office. The first one is a very, very big project called If Midterms. It's an international fusion material irradiation facility. This is a project presented by the European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructure in 2018 and approved to site in a small village near Granada. This is a project with a budget of more than 700 million euros. The budget allocated to the University of Granada that we are managing now is devoted to start the preparation and implementation process, about 60 million euros. And we are preparing the...
Jose, I'm afraid I'm just going to have to interrupt you because we have to move on to some of the other presenters.
Okay, no problem at all.
But perhaps if in the question and answer session, we can come back to some of these research projects if they're relevant to the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you both for very interesting presentations. And I have now ended my screen sharing, and I will just escape from that. And we can move on to the University of Lyon with Romain Thinon, who is the support officer for research and the Arqus AL6 coordinator. So, Romain, would you like to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm coming, sorry. Up here we go, over here, there. And if I'm right, here we go. It should up. Just tell me if you see my screen.
We can see your presentation mode. So
yeah,
a way of going to the full screen,
sure.
You know,
yeah,
clicking on that little button.
It was working differently a few seconds ago. So this is my, okay, that's why. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. And I want just to share my second screen. That's it. Okay, I'm coming over here. I should be good, right?
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Sorry for that. So, hello everyone, and thanks Laura, and thanks for having me and for organizing this pretty fruitful session. We don't often have time or take the time actually to step back and reflect on our own practices, so that's pretty nice to take part in today's discussion. So, as a quick forward, for those who are part of Arqus, you might already know that, but the local situation at the Université de Lyon is pretty, let's say, specific, as Université de Lyon is actually 3 different universities when it comes to Arqus: Lyon 1, Lyon 3, and Saint-Étienne. And in reality, the Université de Lyon is actually 12 members and 24 associated members. So just to be clear, today in my talk, the University of Lyon will be its, let's say, Arqus configuration with Lyon 1, Lyon 3, and Saint-Étienne involved. And actually, modestly, I think that's an interesting and challenging case study, as we already have the collaborative perspective at the local scale. So we already engage in exchanging best practices and stuff like we're doing today. So we've got 3 universities with 3 different profiles and size. Just to take big shortcut, we've got Lyon 1, which is more about art sciences, Lyon 3, which is about social sciences and humanities, and Saint-Étienne, which is basically both. And this, I must say, this diversity allows us to really think and build our collaborative research activities through a multidisciplinary approach. To talk briefly about numbers, you can see them. We are 100,000 students, more than 3,500 professors, researchers, and about 2,500 PhD. With on top of that, 140 postdoc, and most of them, as you can see, are from Lyon 1, the art sciences part. So even if we have a common entity, we've got 3 universities with 3 different ways of supporting researchers and research. And before talking about our differences, I wanted to highlight our similarities, let's say, because in the 3 universities, we've got a central office with about 10 to 13 people dealing with a wide range of activities directly linked to research matters. And it goes from doctoral affairs to financial support, science diffusion, valorization and technology transfer, publication, and so on. And I must say that this transversal perspective is quite common in French university, actually. And in those 3 universities, we've got dedicated structures managing research projects and research funding with dedicated staff. As you can see, for Lyon 3 and Saint-Étienne, these services are a part of the central office with 2 or 3 full-time managers dealing with that matter. And the situation is quite different in Lyon, where we've got affiliated entities. And these two entities are called, on one side, Lyon Ingénierie Projet, with 35 people working there, and ESUS, which is especially in charge of research contracts with industrial partners and service provisions for professors and researchers. And basically, I'm taking big shortcut there, but basically these affiliated entities are taking care of the pre-award phase, while labs and faculties are dealing later with the post-award phase and with the successful application. Regarding LEAP, I said 35 people. It's a lot. It's even more than everything we could dream of in many research offices. Well, maybe not your guys in Bergen, as you're pretty big, if I understood well, but on my side, it's kind of a dream. So, but as we've seen, Lyon is pretty big, and LIMP is also in charge of some research projects from the University Hospital from Lyon. So the more researchers, the more support staff. In comparison with this decentralized model, we've got a more classic one, more, let's say, centralized. In Lyon 3 and Saint-Etienne, where the project life cycle is also divided in 2 times. The pre-award phase is handled in the central offices, and labs and faculties are dealing with the post-award phase and the project management itself with dedicated staff. As you can imagine, it's basically a matter of size. Like if you recall the initial picture, Lyon is much bigger than Lyon 3 and Saint-Etienne, with almost 80% of researchers and 65% of PhD. So, well, it could be discussed, but when you're so big, you can't really handle research management as smaller scale universities do. But whether they are in central offices or in affiliated entities, research support staff are basically doing the same tasks. And obviously, you can see, we find again most of the activities already listed by Simon and other colleagues. So I won't itemize them one by one, but you can see that it goes from monitoring and advertising sources of funding to reporting and exploitation of results.
If you could conclude, that would be great. Thank you.
Hey, all right. So I will skip the transversal activities. I have 3 universities to talk about. So that's pretty big. So just a few words about strategies. When it comes to research strategies, it's especially interesting here because we have the same collective thinking as the one we have in Arqus about trying to design a common research roadmap without rolling out our own internal strategies. So we've got 3 main research shared priorities, which are biohealth and society, science and engineering, and humanities and urbanity. And all these priorities are considered differently according to each university's strength. And just, talking about strategy, I just wanted to highlight some intramural initiative as we were asked for.
Maybe we might come back to that if we have time at the end, but I'm afraid that we really have to move on to the next presenters.
Sure, okay, so I leave the floor there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, if you can just end your screen sharing. We will now move on to the University of Leipzig with Gerhard Fuchs, who is the consultant for European research promotion at the Department of Research Services at Leipzig. So we are exiting the screen sharing as we speak. Gerhard, I believe you can start up your screen sharing. But Roman needs to finish his.
It's not finished yet?
No.
Possible?
So I'm not seeing where I can.
I can see it is actually. Just
exit. Stop participant sharing. Ha!
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. Gerhard, would you like to share your screen?
I am just trying to do so.
I think we might try to shorten the presentations a little because we are running very close to time.
Okay, can you see my presentation now?
Yes, but it's not in presentation mode. So what I might recommend is if you could really focus on the research support system that you have at your university, because that's the core of this conversation.
Okay, then thanks, Laura, and hello everybody from Leipzig again. So I'm Gerhard Fuchs, and I will present research and research support at Leipzig University. So first I start and give you some numbers about our university and about our research. So we have some 500 professors for 30,000 students. Our scientific staff is funded externally. So the appropriate amount of external funding has been 174 million in 2019. So that's the latest available official numbers. All these makes us a medium-sized university in Germany. Now to the contents of the research. So on the left side, you see that there are 3 strategic research fields. So one is in life sciences, one in natural sciences, and one in the humanities. And these are covering 9 so-called research profile areas, which are around the blue fields. So this research profile has been defined with the support of external experts. So in fact, we did a SWOT analysis and had a look where have we been strong in the past and where could we be strong in the future. And of course, time by time, the evaluation with the external experts is updated because things move forward. And of course, one reason for the definition of these focuses is to achieve more third-party funding. And on the right side of the slide, you see some topics where we have got external funding for big centers. So that's really significant amounts. So I will provide the slides as everybody else, and so you can have a look in detail later on. I've put some links here in. And as for the question, basic versus applied sciences, well, our ministry wants to see both, so there are no particular priorities. So now we go from research to research support. Here in this slide, you see, well, the fundamental questions that should be answered in the next slides to follow. That's all the same for all institutions, so I will skip it and go straight forward to our structure and the current state of research support in our university. So we have different units here. They're called sections for the different life cycles of the project. So there's one section for pre-award, one section for post-award, and one section for transfer of results or exploitation, however you call it. Furthermore, in the same department is a section for training for early stage researchers, this one on the right side, and there's a unit for strategic questions. So you see, so we split the competencies for pre and post award and transfer, but everything is in the same department. So the exchange of experiences is given, and there's a close link between all the people. And we tackle all these tasks centrally. So one reason for the central approach is probably the resources, because Leipzig University has 14 faculties. So a real decentralized approach would be quite costly. There are 2 exceptions to this rule of a central approach. One is the big centers I have shown before with external funding. They partly have own structures and consultants because they are funded externally, so the resources are not the major problem. But of course, those decentralized consultants in the centers are in close exchange with the central department. And the second exception is our medical faculty, which of course is closely linked to the university hospital, and they have own parallel structures, not only for research funding, but also for the whole administration, also for the human resources department and so on. So in the next slide, we can have a closer look at the pre-award department. So that's my topic because I work there. So as I said before, also here a central approach, and that's a central facility. And we distributed the responsibilities according to funding bodies. For example, 2 people, including myself, are responsible for Horizon Europe, others for German Research Society, others for ministries, and so on. And the core task of the section is a consultancy of applicants. This includes information on funding opportunities, support with proposal writing, budget planning, proofreading, and so on. I think that's all the same all across the institutions. That's what we do here. But beyond these, let's call them core areas, there are some new tasks, or more or less new tasks, that have been taken over by the unit because they are relevant for proposal writing. Examples are the data management, which is an issue of increasing importance already in the application process, which dealt with in section unit 11. Also, we started to offer some seed funding to certain groups, and this is also managed in the pre-award unit. And last but not least, in the German system, the funding for equipment is more and more focused on equipment pools. That means multi-user solutions. And hence we tackle this issue also in the pre-award section of our department. Other cross-cutting issues like ethics, for example.
Can I ask you to wrap up, please?
30 seconds, yes.
Okay,
the ethics are located in the strategic section of the department, so it's not the same unit, but very close by the same department. And summarizing, I would say, well, of course, we try to install a system that fits best to the needs, but feasibility issues like available resources. So that's it. Thank you for your attention, and questions are welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move on to the University of Vilnius with Vida Lapinskaita, who is the Director for Research and Innovation at the Department of Research and Innovation. Vida, you can share your screen. And if I could just ask you to skip to the slides that describe your research support structure and maybe leave out the information about the university and the research strategy, because then we can really get the core of the information. Whoa.
Sorry.
We can really get the core of the information that's relevant because we are now pretty much out of time. So if you could just focus on the research support structure that you have that's most relevant, that would be great.
It's interesting because, okay, I found it. Can you see my slides?
You can just make them full screen by clicking on the button where your mouse was.
Yeah, I'm done, yeah. So very shortly, actually, our university is a comprehensive one. So we work.
It's not on the full screen, but we can see it. So maybe just just continue if you can.
Okay, because they have just a few slides. So a comprehensive one and not very big one as in comparison with our partners. And if we talk about research support organizations, so at the central level, we have a department for research and innovation I am representing, and we have research administration office, which deals mainly with report statistics and evaluation issues. It's mainly with research projects and pre-award stage and all types of funding, national, structural funds, international one. Innovation office, science business interaction, and office for doctoral and postdoctoral studies also include under one roof. Then we have a close collaboration with the Department for Development, whose core main activities and areas of expertise are large infrastructural projects and investment projects, and everything what's related to project budgeting and financial issues. And about on open access, and we have 15 faculties which have dedicated offices or people. If to talk about the pre-award, it's mostly centralized, but of course we work closely with people or offices at the faculty level. So it's a dissemination of calls and opportunities, preparation of different templates or pre-filled forms guidance, call and partner search, proofreading, or just technical check if everything is there. So budget composition, negotiation with partners, consortium agreements, grant agreements, seminars, and whatever, including maintaining our institution and profile in all grant award systems. So it's distributed between those 3 departments as I showed. And if to talk about the post-award, so financial management is purely centralized. Only very, very small grants may be run at the faculty level. As to talk about open access data management, consultations.
Yes. I'm going to interrupt you because we cannot see the other slides. We are only seeing the first slide because we are not viewing the presentation mode. So if you to switch to the slide that we can view. Yes, that's great. Thank you.
So sorry, so I don't know what's happening, but so it's actually the almost the last one. So if to talk about public procurement, day-to-day management, time recording, it's mostly decentralized. Only the larger issues are dealt on the central level. So shortly like this, I don't know what's happening with slides, but that's all from me.
Thank you. That was very efficient. So I think we got a really good overview of how it works at Vilnius. And here we have Francesca, who will be speaking about the University of Padua's approach. She is the head of the International Research Office. And Francesca, perhaps you can also zoom right ahead to the
Absolutely.
slides.
I'll try to be,
thank
you.
Maybe not that slide, but like the next slide.
Yeah, quicker than quick. The thing that I wanted to communicate that I think is important when describing how our research support services are organized in Padua is the fact research strategy-wise, it is very important for us being a general comprehensive university with no predefined research priority to foster the participation of researchers to competitive funding opportunities, both at the national and international level. What I think is very specific to us being a very decentralized university working with 32 departments, which are quite many. We are considered a large university in the Italian context. What I think is very interesting is that the fact that researchers are led to access to funding opportunities on a competitive basis translates into the way we actually fund our research budget. We do have a quite relevant research budget. Every year we manage about 60 million euros. 20 to 25 million euros derived from internal budget from the university governance. So there are quite a few programs that are coordinated centrally to actually distribute this budget in the different departments. And that means that centrally we have a strong leadership and coordination activity and strategic activity in terms of research support to make sure that this large budget comes to departments in the way of funding programs. The idea is to offer departments an access on a competitive basis to this funding. Departments, on the other hand, where the research takes place, play a great role in grant management. So not so much in pre-award phase, but in the post-award phase, they're very essential. And they're very useful to us as central offices in actually promoting the different funding opportunities that are available as a university. talking about research support at the central level, so talking about central services, as I said, we do fund quite a bit of initiatives with internal funding, intramural funding. Also, as central offices dedicated to research, we are engaged in training activities, both for researchers and especially addressed to colleagues, RMAs working at department level. Such training activities at department level for RMAs mainly deal with grant management issues, both for international and national funding, IPR issues, research contracts. So very practical information that departments can use to actually support researchers at a local level. Talking about how research support is organized at the university, as I said, we do manage a lot of money centrally going towards the department. We do have a structure where there are a few offices, central offices, that are responsible for translating strategies into actions and funding programs. So they sort of set the lead for how research at the University of Padua should be managed. Central offices are mainly involved in the pre-award support, but they also offer post-award support depending on the type of funding they manage. As of Leipzig, we do organize our offices based on the kind of funding that we deal with. So we do have a general research and business relations area comprising a few offices all engaged in research. One is Research and Quality Office, national funding. The other one is an International Research Office, the one that I coordinate, mainly dedicated to international type of funding opportunities. That is the framework programs, but also, for example, international foundations promoting research on the international level. Then we do have the Research Valorization Office, which is our technology knowledge transfer office, which is mainly specialized in IPR management, patents, and spin-off support. And also they offer training like we all do. We do have in the same area also career service, which is quite strange, a strange choice, if I may, for the university, because it's not really related to research, but the office is inserted in the area as well. At department level, every department has their own research or research and information units. So a group of RMAs that are dedicated to research support. And they're our stakeholders, internal stakeholders, central offices. That's the people we talk to make sure that all the available funding reaches researchers. We address pre-award support services to the colleagues at department level, and also we address to them training opportunities. So centrally, we promote research opportunities, and we focus mainly on pre-award actions. And locally, there are units dedicated to research support, so groups of colleagues that actually assist researchers at the local level that are mainly specialized in grant preparation and grant management issues. I tried to be the quickest that I could. I hope you could follow me.
Thank you so much, Francesca. That was a great overview. And I think what we'll do now is, since we started a little bit late, I think we will take maybe about 5 minutes for a discussion, and then we'll try to wrap up about 10 after. So if you have to go, that's fine, but I hope everyone can stay. I don't see any questions. Vibeke has a comment in the chat. So if you have some questions, put them in, but maybe I'll just start off with kind of a general question, because I think this might be interesting for a comparison. Do any of you feel that the way you currently have a structure has any weaknesses, or that you're looking to change or improve? Because it may be that some of the things that you're thinking of addressing have been addressed elsewhere. So if you're willing to admit any weaknesses in your administration of research, the way you have it structured, be brave and maybe comment on them, because perhaps those are concerns that have been addressed elsewhere. Does anybody brave enough to say if they don't think something is working at their institution? Francesca?
I am, if I may. A challenge is always an opportunity. I think one challenge that we are aware of that they were trying to face is actually about communication between different stakeholders working at central level and also at decentralized level. Of course, we have 32 departments, so we have quite a large team to work with, and that's really the challenge. At the central level also, communication between offices can be an issue. We are trying to monitor in that because when you work in research, and we understand it's a very complex field, you need to make sure that communication and information sharing is well monitored and goes smoothly. That's a challenge, I think, that could be improved in our case.
Yeah, I think communication is a really great question. Does any of the other presenters want to comment on concerns that your university is trying to address? Viveka.
Yes, I mean, of course, there are many. We're showing the perfect picture in such an arena, but for us, it's a bit of a challenge now to kind of join together education and training, education and research, right? Because I mean, we know that this is an area where we should dive into more deeply, and it's important, but we're still, I mean, everybody wants to do it, but it's all about, resources and tidying it up and things like that. So I would love to hear if somebody have done something really great in that field.
So we have two concerns so far: communication and this relationship between research and teaching. Other comments on those two, or perhaps some other concerns that others are addressing at their universities, or think that you should be addressing or be concerned about at your universities?
Well, if I may, so our central approach and the responsibilities according to funding agencies has the advantage that I know very good about Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. But of course, a decentralized approach would have the advantage that we are closer to the researcher and closer to the topics. So I'm responsible for medical faculty and for philosophers and I'm responsible for everybody. So of course, topic-wise and regarding the contents, I'm not as close to the researchers as my colleagues who work on the faculty level, but you cannot have it all.
Yeah, well, actually, that's exactly what we were trying to address, and I think it works out quite well with these project managers for those profile shaping areas that we have. These colleagues now link to our office, so they are part of our office, but they are actually really just responsible for this special area. And I think with having this sort of decentralized approach within our centralized department, that's actually, I think, quite a good combination. And so far it works quite well, and I think it's quite promising because, as you say, I've had the same problem that I'm responsible for the whole of Horizon Europe, and I got a good overview there, but I'm at the central office, and it's very difficult to reach out to the researchers and establish the contacts. So to have people at our office who are just responsible for a smaller group of researchers and are in much closer contact with them, but still having them linked in within our office, I think that works quite well. Our experience with that is quite well. And for the second point, I think Arqus is doing a good job there because we have got in the same action line, in the action line 6, we have the research support and the support for the young researchers. So we get a little bit more this linkage between the training and the research support done. I think this is the first step in this direction, but still long way to go, of course.
If I may add to that, I think it's very interesting that actually training activities that are offered by central offices or research support services regardless of how they're organized. I think training activities reaching researchers kind of make researchers more aware of the added value coming from RMAs, from research support, so that they actually, it's a step towards a clearer understanding of how important it is to cooperate to get the best out of the research projects.
Excellent. We probably should wrap up. Are there any last comments on any of those thoughts from Vilnius or Granada or Lyon? Maybe just one comment, or we should wrap up, but it would be great to hear from any of you. That's a sign we are a wrap. So thank you so much, all the presenters. Thank you, all of these attendees. I know I learned a lot as the Action Line 6 leader here at Bergen. It's such an enlightening experience to make these contacts, again, with what was mentioned in the first session of networking. So I believe that all these presentations are going to be made accessible. Francesca is coordinating that. So there's a lot of information, a lot of things to learn from what we've heard today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Francesca, for coordinating all of this and putting together a fantastic set of sessions. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this Arqus week, and I hope to see some of you around at other Arqus events in the future. Anything else you want to conclude with, Francesca?
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to host the meeting and to cooperate with all of you. Thank you very much to all the speakers for the effort and good work. And well, we keep on working then. And thank you for all the audience and all the participants. We'll definitely keep in touch.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.